Hello, everyone. I'm Sonali Silva, and I work on abortion. I usually like to do this just after I say that. I like to watch the reactions in the room, the weight of the room get a little heavier, and I'm actually going to point out some familiar reactions as I drop the A word. People tend to lean in, people tend to recoil. They definitely look at each other with, oh my God, what are we doing here? They also start to question, what is she doing here? And that is stigma in motion. That is stigma not as an idea, but stigma as a presence. What I'm inviting you today to indulge me is to see that one of the greatest solutions to dismantling stigma is not actually just a policy, it's also not just a protest. In fact, it's a person. It's you. What I'm putting forward today, actually, what I'm going to prove to you today, is that it's not enough to create safe spaces to dismantle stigma, we have to become them. So I'm throwing this word around a lot, stigma, stigma. What does stigma mean? Stigma is the blueprint for exclusion. It is the fear that when I voice my values or my beliefs or step into my truth, I run the risk of not belonging in my society, being discredited by my society. That's what stigma is. Stigma also operates on 3 levels. One of the biggest circles is structural stigma, and that's in our laws, in our legislature, in our policies, in our institutions. Then it exists in the social space, social stigma. It's here in the room with us today. In those reactions, in those silences, in the way you're gripping your seat right now, that's social stigma. And it exists in our culture, in our language, and our reactions. And then, of course, the inner concentric circle. The smallest one when we visualize, but maybe the one with the most damage, the most inconspicuous one, the insidious one, the internalized voice of stigma. And what that is it feels like shame, it feels like guilt, but often it's an act of self-censorship. So I've studied abortion in so many different ways, and specifically in Sri Lanka, what always fascinates me is stigma, the way it operates. And even to understand stigma, one of the best examples is to look at abortion in Sri Lanka. Because when we look at structural stigma, in the legislature of abortion rights, abortion provision in Sri Lanka, abortion is criminalized under the Penal Code 303 to 306, which was written in 1883. Abortion is criminalized, unless we are providing it to prevent the risk of a mother's life. That's also kind of gray area in terms of provision. But abortion is criminalized in the event of a rape, in the event of an incident of incest, in fatal fetal anomalies, not even if it's a child expecting a child. We are not able to provide the necessary health care that is abortion. So you'd think, okay, if you have a restrictive law, does that mean abortions don't happen in Sri Lanka? Wrong. They happen all the time. In fact, a 2015 report by the Ministry of Health says that 250,000 abortions happen in Sri Lanka per year. Guttmacher Institute in 2019 confirmed that most of them are unsafe. That's a whopping 685 per year, and this is an underestimate, an extrapolation, because we'll never really know the real number. See, this is the thing. When we restrict something, when we criminalize it, it doesn't mean that it goes away. You've just taken the opportunity for it to happen safely. That's what restrictive laws do. But you know what is the cruel irony of the situation in Sri Lanka? It's that we criminalize safe abortion, but we've legalized post-abortion care. So what we're saying as a country in our institutions, particularly in our healthcare system, is go hurt yourself, and at a greater cost to the healthcare system, at a greater risk to your life, we'll provide you post-abortion care. We'll help you heal. Can I be so brutally honest with you? Every time we as a society say, or we wait for people to get hurt, we wait for them to be in harm's way before we offer care, before we offer help, what we're doing is not preventing harm, we are institutionalizing it. But it's not just in our laws, and I said that to you. It's also in the room with us, it's in our reactions, and it's in who we are as a culture, in the way we present ourselves as a society. And that is social stigma. It's a warning. It's these kinds of women get abortions. Those kinds of people, see, look, you shouldn't be like that. The stereotyping, that's how we embed social stigma on abortion into our language. So you'd think in a country like ours, probably, quite conservative, like, yeah, okay, maybe most people would say that we don't want abortions. It's not a reality for Sri Lanka. You'd say that, right? You'd think that. But I have a pipeline study that will actually prove that wrong. 65% of people that we asked, in the event of a rape, do you agree that abortion should be provided? 65% of them strongly agreed. There was a majority that agreed, but 65% said strongly agreed. As a researcher, it's that strongly agree word, the word strong, that really captures me. You strongly agree that in the event of a rape, abortion should be provided. Okay. Those exact same people were then gone to, and we asked them, are you willing to say this publicly? Are you willing to post about it, speak about it, vote on it? Not one of those people said they would. Why is that? What does that mean? Why are they privately empathetic, but publicly disapproving? That's stigma. That's social stigma. It is the fear that if I speak what I believe, what I value, I risk my belonging to my community. And then we just wait for the first person to go ahead of us because we're too afraid to be that person. And you know what happens when we are afraid to speak our truths, when we're not able to give a voice to what's happening in Sri Lanka? And mind you, I shared with you the data, the numbers on this. This isn't a fringe issue that's happening outside. This is a silent public health crisis happening in front of us. When we don't have that voice, we don't have those cases, the data disappears. And with that disappearance of data is also the possibility of justice, the potential for equity. And finally, the internalized stigma. That's the hardcore one, because the source of those who stigmatize and the source of those who feel stigma is the same. It happens here, it happens within. And I don't need to go very far for that example. I am a cute Instagram girl that loves to share content on whatever it is that she's interested in, and I happen to be interested in abortion. So in 2019, about 6 years ago, I decided to make cute content on WHO's self-managed guidelines on abortion. Just fun facts, myth-busting, and it's like, oh, this is a no-brainer, Let me just make it exciting. And I was met with so much resistance. Interestingly, not to what I was sharing. It was to who I am. It was to who raised me. Oh, she's probably had one, that's why she's talking about it. Of course she talks about abortion, she's a slut. It was almost always personal attacks. And you know what? I deleted those videos. I deleted those comments first, and then I deleted those videos. And I decided, why did I do that? Why did I put myself out there? I can't be like that. I don't want to deal with this. And I decided to, self-censor. when we're discussing issues like abortion, anything to do with health rights, justice in this space, there are some very usual suspect solutions that we go to. The traditional solutions that we go to, which is, of course, changing the legislature, legal reforms, policy reforms, embedding it into our institutions, better service provision, education awareness, all vital, all valid, and I would never take away from these solutions being impactful. But what I'm here to tell you is that they're also all insufficient. Because stigma doesn't operate in those institutions. Stigma's not in those rooms, and it's not abstract, it's really here. And we could do all of those things. We could have all of those boxes checked, but stigma would still be a barrier in preventing unsafe abortions. Why? Because you can change the law, but you cannot legislate safety into the room. So unless we stop trying to superficially create safe spaces and start to learn how to become them, we're never going to see impactful change. And when I say creating versus becoming, creating is creating something outside of you that is specific to context, specific to time and place. But becoming is transforming something within you. So, okay, Sonali, get to the point. How do we become a safe space? A safe space. Okay, when I say safe space, what are you thinking, right? What is a safe space? And you're probably thinking closed door, private, small group, confidential hotline, support group. Very much the echo chamber of safety. But I told you, that's the problem. We're willing to agree with each other in safe space, in private spaces. We're willing to be like, yeah, that's valid, same seas. We're willing to do that. What we're not willing to do is to speak about it publicly. So, what am I asking you to do? I'm asking you to become an embodiment of that resistance. Say, it's going to stop with me. Those systems that cause harm, those jokes that I no longer believe in, I'm going to be that disruption for it. I'm going to be the disruption for it when I hear it, when I see it, wherever it's happening. I'm going to embody that as a practice. It is a practice. It's not an end point. Becoming a safe space is a practice. So what does it look like in the abortion space? You could be a teacher who doesn't out or expose that as a student is pregnant, but gives her kind, considerate care. You could be a doctor that isn't sarcastic when they find out and offer compassionate care. You could be a friend, a family member that doesn't ask intrusive questions, but is just willing to go through the process with you. Do you know what it definitely doesn't look like? It's definitely not believing privately and remaining publicly silent. When I say that support, it's not a feeling. Support is a behavior. And safe spaces are not built. They're practiced into being. And there's so much evidence on this, guys. There's so much evidence to prove that this kind of embodiment of resistance works. It works in sociology. Irving Hoffman said that, stigma is propelled in secrecy, and this performance of we believe but don't want to show. It's proven in psychology through narrative therapy, trauma-informed care in public health, and this kind of contact and presence is what is transformational. It's also proven in the abortion rights movements. In Argentina, the Ni Una Menos and the Yo Decida movement centered around women that sought abortion, sharing their stories, and women willing to listen to those, creating space for that. That was the cultural tipping point that led to systematic change. And mind you, I'm not saying that we're going to dismantle stigma and provide systematic solutions through an act of kindness. I'm not outsourcing that to a flowery, sense of goodness. No. But I am telling you that's where it's starting. That's where it comes from. That's the beginning point. And as a country, for us, that's the first step. I've studied about this for 10 years. I've worked on it for about 12. And it isn't my expertise that brings me here, that gives me the strength to do this. It's actually my experience, my lived experience. I am a survivor of sexual violence. And I know in my own body what that feels like, that stigma, that internalized voice that says I'm unworthy, that tells me, don't look in the mirror, don't look at yourself, that has conditioned me to feel like regardless of how it happened and now you're unworthy. You're not good enough. You should stay, most of all, silent. I know what that feels like. So this isn't coming from a place of, no, this is coming from a place of felt. This is coming from a real place of experience. What I want to say to you, what I want to bring to you as your take home, here's the truth that I want you to carry. Stigma is not this abstract idea. It is, in fact, a system of oppression. It isn't something that we can expect to die in silence, because, in fact, it feeds off of silence. It isn't easy for me to share what I shared with you, but it is necessary, because if I'm asking you to live your truth, then I have to be bold enough to do that myself. That's how we start to dismantle stigma. And it is, yes, we need safe spaces. Yes, we absolutely do. But safe spaces are limited by access, privilege, and power. What we need more are safe people. People who will hold truth, their truth and the truth of others, with tenderness. We need people who will recognize their humanity in others. Those are your people. Those are safe people. So yes, when I go to a room and I say I work on abortion, the room still changes. But I don't. I have become the safe space that I needed for myself and for others. So I hope you will too.